Okay, let me proceed. So if I have a passive device, then clearly it cannot source power. Okay, so this means that this kind of behavior, V naught going down, simply cannot happen. Okay, so V naught cannot go negative because the device cannot source power. Okay, so something must give. Okay, something must give, something must break. And it turns out that our model breaks down. Okay, so you recall the model that we had. So our model was for the dependent source was the current was some function of VI. Okay, ID was related to VI squared, and this I said was true when VI was greater than or equal to 1 volt. Okay. Now, if this was a non-ideal device, in other words, if it wasn't an ideal dependent source, then generally, if it was in this case, if it was a passive device, then this equation ID equals some function of VI squared should no longer be valid when V naught less than 0. Okay, for a practical device, that is what happens. Okay, this relationship here, where the current relates to the input voltage, doesn't follow that square law pattern when V naught is less than 0. Okay, in fact, as V naught begins to approach 0, something very interesting should happen. And what happens is that as V naught begins to approach 0, then ID saturates. Okay, ID stops increasing. So notice here the ID increases as Vi minus 1 squared. And in a practical device, which is a passive, if it's a passive device, then as V naught begins to approach 0, then ID, as one example, might saturate, ID might stop increasing. And if ID stopped increasing, then V naught would not go negative. And instead, V naught, for many practical devices, V naught would look like this. Okay, as V naught begins to approach the negative regime, something strange would happen. The model would break down, and I'll show you a practical device where this kind of behavior is observed. Okay, so we really see that V naught saturates out, and so does the current. So we will look at a practical device in the next sequence and really try to model that part of the behavior as well. Okay, so for now, let me show you a demo because I actually do not have an ideal dependent source in my lab. I actually have a passive device. And I'm going to show you that as in this demo that I'm going to show you, you will see that the device, it does not go negative. The voltage does not go negative. Rather, it's going to saturate out as expected because the current equation is no longer valid because of the properties of the device.